Greetings, everyone. I'm here to talk to you about the much anticipated Practicum training that's coming up. I'm going to take you through this video and a series of slides that really gives you all the necessary details to which you're going to need to know to get ready for the Practicum, apply for the Practicum, and follow through with the Practicum. Here's my information here if you don't have it already. I'm the Director of Clinical Training. My main campus is the Irvine campus, but also spend time on the LA campus, and would be happy to speak with you either on the phone or via office appointment if you like. I also have a student assistant. Her name is Celine. She's great for answering questions, especially technology questions, but she's definitely a fantastic resource for you to use if you're going to need it. A couple things to keep in mind as we're going through this, or actually in the beginning of this. The information that I'm going to give you is for your practicum placement. The better you stay on top of it, the better chance you get the practicum that you want. It's actually going to be up to you to complete these things. I'm going to send out as many reminders as I can, but I'm not going to be following up and checking on you. You're going to have to take it upon yourself to make sure you're meeting deadlines. And keep in mind, if you're out of the deadlines, you're probably going to be out of consideration for the position. Welcome to graduate school. Okay, so this material is being given to you now so that it can be completed by the start of next semester, which is spring semester this January. Actually, start as early as you can, and feel free to watch the video more than one time if you need to. I'm also going to email the PowerPoint to you, so reference it as you're going through. If you have two sets of computers to use, I'm actually going to put this presentation on YouTube as well so that you could listen to it while you're following along on your computer and actually pause it and do the work as you need to. This is just an overview about what it is it's going to look like in the applied clinical program. You're obviously in the first year, and we're on December 2016, and this is the orientation that I'm providing for you for the Practicum program. Over December, you're going to learn the ALCEA software, which I'm going to get into in great detail in the slides to come, and you're going to begin to search the sites. By January or the start of next semester, you're going to start to apply for Practicum, and then that gives you information on the second and third year, just so you got kind of an idea about what to expect in the 3 years coming. Okay, so Practicum facts. The Practicum is going to be a 9 to 12 placement, and that's a placement that's on site for 9 to 12 months. It's going to be 16 to 24 hours per week. Most people do 2.5 days a week, but most sites don't want less than 16 hours per week. Your goal is to accumulate 800 total clinical hours. We also have a Practicum waiver to which some students are eligible for. I sent out an email earlier this semester that talked about the Practicum waiver. Please reference that if you have any more questions. But keep in mind that you will have 800 clinical hours, and you will want to submit those hours to the Director of Clinical Training, which is me, through the ALCEA software. But I'm going to show you how to keep track of all that to what you're going to need. The Practicum training must be 40 to 60% in direct service. That means approximately 320 hours, if you're completing 800 hours, must be in front of clients. This can be obviously therapy, but can also be assessments if you're going to do that. Keep in mind you're also going to need 2 hours of supervision each week. 1 hour is face-to-face with a licensed psychologist, and then the additional hour is either another hour of individual or an hour of group with a licensed mental health professional. All the Practicum training sites that are part of our program have been pre-approved by the department. So all of these have been rigorously evaluated. And keep in mind that these Practicum training hours that you're completing are a requirement of the Chicago school and don't count toward your state licensure, to which you're going to want to do. A lot of times questions come up regarding, can you work during Practicum? And the answer is maybe. A lot of times that it is successful is when both the workplace and school schedule are flexible. If you do the math and you have a 40-hour work week and you have a 20-hour Practicum plus 12 hours of classroom, you're looking at a 72-hour week. And I don't think that's reasonable for a lot of people. And in fact, most individuals think that they can handle this, but then become overwhelmed by the process. Also keep in mind the driving that's going to take place between sites. And you know, California traffic is not pleasant. So now's the time to start thinking about the practicum sites to which you want to be a part of. It's a time to think about what populations you want to work with, what diagnosis you want to be a part of, and to which you want to really give yourself the experience to make you a candidate for when it comes to not only internship but a postdoc. These practicum experiences are one of the most rewarding and positive experience you can have, and it's actually one of the fun parts of the development of our program. You should be open and flexible when you're doing these training experience, and it's highly suggested that you don't typecast yourself into one specific population or one specific age group so that you become a more valuable asset to when you're applying for these different positions that are coming up. No matter where you train, the training is actually going to be very beneficial and very meaningful. The prerequisites that you need to keep in mind when you're applying: you must have your cumulative GPA above 3.0. You have to have approval from the program faculty in the DCT, and the practicum itself cannot start until the summer term at its earliest. This is because you have to actually be enrolled in the practicum class concurrently with practicum, but we can talk more about that as the slides progress. Other things to keep in mind about your practicum: they cannot be completed at your current workplace, they must be unpaid, and they can't be combined with any other agency of accruing hours. For example, if you're concurrently trying to get your MFT license, you can't double dip those hours and have them count for both. Like we talked about, students aren't typically able to work full-time or on practicum, and practicum is generally during the week. Students often ask for night and weekend hours for practicum, and just unfortunately it's just not something that's available. Just sites don't seem to be open that time. We do have a database called ALSEA of our training sites, and it takes place both in LA and Orange County. So if you live outside these counties, you want to start thinking about what your travel options might be, because you don't want to spend your time in the car and wasting a lot of time during your week, because as you know, the hours tend to add up quickly. Okay, so practicum is a requirement for graduation. In fact, it's a requirement before you can move on to internship, so your goal should be to get placed. The reason I say this is so that you're flexible when you're choosing the sites that you apply to. You want to definitely meet your hours requirement that you're having. So you have to really measure about how picky you want to be during the practicum training experience. Some sites may seem like they're going to be a challenge, or might seem easy at the beginning and then end up being not what you expected. So your main goal should be to get placed somewhere. If you experience a problem while you're on your practicum, I'm your first point of contact. Please contact me immediately. And more importantly, if you fail practicum, you have to repeat the whole thing. So you want to make sure that you're not missing any deadlines. And also, if you decide to leave your practicum through your own choice, for example, you decide that you want to take a leave of absence, or that you just have too much going on in your life, you can't pick up where you left off on practicum. You actually have to repeat the whole thing when you're going through this. It's important for you to check your email every day so that you don't miss any information from me. And if I'm sending you multiple emails, that means that it's quite important. I'm going to explain to you how to go through ALSEA, and the step that you're going to do by the start of this term is to have 10 sites successfully rank ordered in order of preference. Now don't panic, I'm going to take you through step by step on how to do this, but I want to give you kind of the overview of why you choose 10 sites. Because the sites are so competitive, we don't want to overwhelm sites with multiple candidates. So through your rank order, we will approve probably 1 to 3 sites for you to apply to. Since sites have a certain number of applicants that they want to accept, we have to determine not only what is the best fit for the site, but what the site is that you want. So for instance, if you and your colleague both want a particular site, but you rank it first and they rank it third, the likelihood of you getting that site is higher, especially if they only have 2 to 3 open positions to which they have. It's important for you to really read the descriptions of the sites that are on ALCEA. Again, I'll show you how to do this in the slides to come, but you want to make sure that you're meeting the requirements of the sites. If you say that you want to get testing experience, that's great, but if a site asks for people with previous testing experience that you don't have, you're probably not going to be that successful during the interview, and that will basically be a wasted interview for you. So read the agency descriptions that you can, and they usually go into great details. So just keep an eye on what it is that they're looking for. Don't feel like you have to meet every single requirement, but they want somebody that will be able to satisfy the needs that they have. So keep that in mind. Also, don't rank any supplemental sites. That's not anything for you. That's for somebody that is on a different program rank, so they actually will do a part-time practicum over a couple of years, but you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you're getting your practicum hours completed within this year, so stay away from the supplemental sites. Okay, so for practicum class, you'll actually be enrolled in practicum class throughout the practicum experience. You're actually going to complete practicum 1 through 4, and in summer you're going to start practicum 1, and then fall practicum 2, spring practicum 3, and then the following summer you'll actually complete practicum 4. Your class is important because it's going to provide support, which will include case consultations and case presentations, and also helps troubleshoot situations that you are going on and going through. A lot of students use this time to vent their experiences or vent their frustrations, and you quickly learn that other students are going through similar things that you go through, and it's a nice way to get an idea about how you're progressing. Also, it's a nice idea to touch base with how your supervision is going, whether or not your needs are being met, and whether or not you're getting the experience you want. I'll be popping into your practicum classes during the course of the years just to double check with these things, but it'll be up to you to contact me if something is actually going on so that we can actually take care of that before it gets any worse. If you don't have a site, you should not be in the class. This is a little bit different for the summer for practicum 1 because sometimes you haven't started practicum until, you know, maybe the fall semester, but you should at least be in negotiation with a site. So if you decide you're going to postpone practicum for whatever reason for a year, do not enroll in the practicum classes because you're going to end up having to take them twice. And like I said in the previous slide, if you have to repeat practicum, you have to repeat the practicum classes as well. So that's more money out of your pocket because you have to take the same class multiple times, and that's just something that you don't want to do. So don't sign up for the class until you've successfully secured a site, but we'll give you more information on that moving forward. Okay, so there's a couple of different ways to find sites. The one that most use is using the sites that are on ALCEA. These sites have been vetted already, and we already know that the supervision is what it needs to be and the clients are what they need to be, and it's going to satisfy the requirements for the school. Sometimes students choose to create their own sites, and this is usually based on location. So if you're, for instance, living in Palmdale and don't have access to a lot of the sites within our own database, you might visit the sites that are near your house so that you can negotiate this. The difficulty with this is your responsibility. The school actually does not take any responsibility in finding you the new sites. So it would be up to you to go into these sites, talk with the director of clinical training or talk to the potential supervisor to make sure that they satisfy the requirements that we're going to need. The 3 things to keep in mind specifically are you have to be supervised by a licensed psychologist, you can't be paid for the work, and you have to actually make sure that there's people walking in the door so that you can meet your direct service requirements. So a couple things, if you think that you're going to create your own site, contact me separately so that we can begin to talk about what you have in mind and different options that you might want to have. Okay, so when you verbally, after you've gone on your interviews and your and you measure what it is that you're deciding within your practicum, and you verbally accept a placement, it is a binding agreement. So what that means is that they stopped looking for students because they already assumed that you have secured the position with them. So it's not fair to them to change your mind. So you have to really think hard about what it is you want before you decide what you want. And we could talk more about this in the future about what to do if there's multiple sites giving you offers and things like that. But think long and hard about what it is that you want to do. If you end up leaving the site, it's cause for a student affair committee referral or a SAC referral, because it's considered patient abandonment, because basically we're leaving patients hanging because they don't have anybody to see them. So keep that in mind. If for some reason you get in trouble along the way, start failing classes, or you have some sort of thing going on, you may not be eligible to apply for faculty. So just do your best to keep clean and do what you need to do. For when you're on practicum, you're going to be required to keep hourly logs while you're there. Although you're not required to submit them, it's going to be up to you to keep track of the hours to which you're going to be accruing there. Okay, so the practicum preparation actually begins now. If you have not one already, you should complete your CV and keep it as up-to-date as possible, and also put together a cover letter to which you could use as a general cover letter that can go out to multiple sites. If you have the time, you can personalize each cover letter to the site. It's actually probably a good idea to do so, but if you're under a lot of time crunch, a general cover letter can also be used. You're encouraged to use career services if writing is not your strong point, and also you want to have a colleague or even your advisor take a look at your CV just so that they can give you some feedback about what it is that they look like. Also, you want to start reaching out for letters of recommendation. These letters of recommendation aren't something that you're going to upload. They're actually something you're going to keep personally, so that if a site asks for letters of reference, you'll have them on hand and they can easily be sent out. What you want to do is have your letter writers be either old professors or somebody that can speak to your clinical work. You obviously don't want to do friends and family. You want somebody that's going to speak highly of your clinical abilities and someone that can kind of comment on those. What you want to do with that is have the letter writer either put it in a PDF so that it's not changeable, and something that you could easily attach to an email when you're sending out application materials. Remember, all these things need to be completed by the end of January, which is coming up, and by the start of spring semester. Additionally, there's a strengths and weaknesses document on there. The strengths and weaknesses document is not so that we know what you're good and bad at, but more like what you would like to get more work in. This is important document to reference because we look at these when we are measuring placement, and if you say in your weakness, for example, that you wish you had more experiencing in testing cases, then we would know that you, although you don't have experience yet, you'd like to get some. So it's important to kind of keep those through. There's also a list on the strengths and weaknesses document for your rank order at the bottom, and I really need you to pay no attention to this because this is confusing for people. You want to do your rank order list actually on your ALCEA page, but again, I'll go through the details on how to do that. Okay, so the next step and what you're going to be doing is going on to ALCEA and completing your student detail page. It's going to be the first step. And the student information that you're going to be adding is name, address, phone number, etc. You can add your picture, which is highly recommended. And this is kind of a forward thought here, but when you're finished with everything, I'm actually going to notify you when the agency list is open for you to actually take a look at those things. Here's some important dates for you to keep in mind. By December, ALCEA will open for you to search sites. In fact, it's open already, so you can actually hop on now and take a look. And then by mid-January, you're going to start submitting the documentations that you need. This is going to be the practicum intent form, the comportment contract, the strengths and weaknesses, the CV, and the cover letter as well. Also, you're going to want to have your 7 to 10 practicum sites rank ordered by review before this date, sometime in mid-January, and then in late January, we're going to send out notification that says what sites you have been approved to apply to, and then you can begin sending applications. Again, I'll send out detailed instructions on how to do that, so it will actually be, you'll be let know specifically what you want to do, but none of that can take place if you don't do these first steps that I'm doing, so this is why we're talking about this now. Then the practicum notification begins in April, and most people begin practicum around August or July to successfully complete your practicum. Okay, quick note on background checks. Some sites require a background checks, so you may be eliminated from sites if you have something in your background. Specifically, if you're working in the prison populations, they require a pretty involved background checks that may bring things up. If it's something that's years ago, it may not come up, but it's important for you to communicate these things with not only the school, but with your potential supervisor, just so that there's no surprises on either end. They want to just make sure that everything has been taken care of and that you are actually able to perform the duties that you're going to need to perform. Also, if the background check comes up, you know, especially negative, that may prevent you from getting licensed in the state of California, so you definitely want to identify any potential concerns as soon as possible. Just a note on professional comportment. It is expected that you be appropriate, legal, ethical during all your practicum experience, and you're going to be held to the APA Code of Ethics, to which you hopefully have gone through in your ethics class. But just make sure that you're following the guidelines that you have. If you have questions regarding some ethical situations that are going on, remember the DCT or myself is the first point of contact, so that you can kind of let us know what it is that's taking place, so that we can address these matters. If it comes between you and your supervisor notifying me, it's usually the first person that notifies us is usually the one that is taken more seriously. So it's in your best interest to get something out as quickly as possible. A couple of examples of things that can get you in trouble in practicum is obviously professional behavior, but excessive time off, goes back to the patient coverage that we have. You can't be late for appointments, you can't miss appointments, because it's something that the sites actually rely on for us to be a part of. You want to have a professional attitude, you want to dress in a professional attire, and you want to be compliant about what the site and the school's requirements are. For example, if they have a policy to wear certain footwear because of potential for patient contact, you want to make sure that you are taking those into consideration. Remember, your practicum is where you are going to gain your letters of recommendation that go on to internship and that go on to postdoc. So essentially, it's your first piece of relationship development that you're going to use to secure future employment. So you want to really put your best foot forward. Here's another list of unethical behaviors that we have. We don't really need to go into details about these, but you want to make sure that you're following these guidelines. If you have a question, for example, whether or not something is allowed within the site, for instance, videotaping or audio taping sometimes is not allowed at particular sites, but it's a requirement for the practicum class, you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. So have open lines of communication with your supervisor, your practicum instructor, and me, and then we can kind of go from there. If you know that something is going to take place during the training year, you want to let the supervisors know as quickly as possible. If, for instance, you know that you are securing a practicum site, but you know that you're going to be going out of town for a wedding for a week, you want to make sure that you let them know so that they can keep that in mind when it comes to offering you a position or not. They don't have to give you anything after the fact, so I'd hate for them to say, you can't go somewhere and then you end up have to quit. That really doesn't work in anyone's best favor. So you want to keep away from that. And bring a schedule of your classes when you're going on your interview. If you can keep your class schedule straight, you'll have a better chance to say whether or not you'd fit in with the scheduling at the practicum site. For instance, a lot of sites have a didactic training on a particular day of the week that's mandatory. But if you know that you have a class that conflicts with that, you know that you're not actually going to be a part of that. When it comes to scheduling, your practicum comes first. You can't just decide to leave your site because you have to do something else. I know everybody has other responsibilities as far as jobs and classes and kids and family and the whole other bit, but you can't leave the sites hanging because it would be considered patient abandonment, and that unfortunately is one of the things that can get you in deep trouble. We talked about some legal, ethical situations that are going on, but it's also important for you to keep an openness for your own self-examination. I know a lot of people are in different phases of their training. Some people have no experience at all. Some people have a lot of experience. But if you go in with the open mind and willingness to learn, a lot of supervisors are going to respond to that a lot better. It's also up to you to keep your time cards, your hours logs, making sure those are accurate. If you manipulate or even if it's on accident, put the wrong hours down, you can actually get yourself in trouble for that. So you want to make sure that you're keeping accurate records of all the things that are going on, and so that you know what to put into your midterm and final evaluations when the time comes. Okay, if you have a problem at your practicum, the first line is your DCT. So come to me with any kind of situations that you might have, and hopefully we can step in and remedy that. If for whatever reason your site comes to me and says that there are different things that are going on that you need work on, they put together an academic development plan which says that you will attempt to improve these things within a 30-day notice, and if they are not improved within a 30-day notice, you may be up for dismissal from the program. Like we talked about in the earlier slides, that's not something you want to do. So again, please communicate with me as early as you can, whether it's you're not getting the supervision that you need, you're not getting the hours that you need, the supervisor or the site's asking you to do something that you're not comfortable with, whatever it may be, you want to make sure that these needs are addressed as quickly as possible. Okay, so we talked about as soon as possible, and then you might be referred to the Student Affairs Committee. I think I mentioned this already, but if you end up failing practicum, you must repeat the entire practicum training the following year, which is not something in your best interest for timeliness. Okay, it's important that you keep safe at your practicum. You want to follow the training and the format that the sites themselves have set up. But essentially, you want to keep yourself safe in all situations. You want to make sure that you feel comfortable at the site so that you're able to provide the assistance that you need to your patients, but you also want to keep yourself safe. Like I said, the sites that we are a part of have already been vetted so that we know the safety protocols of the sites that are on ALCEA. But if, for instance, you're starting your own site, you want to definitely make sure that you're keeping in mind the safety measures that come about. A lot of times students will go through the training protocols that you have, but a couple things to keep in mind. You want to familiarize yourself with the safety protocols as early as possible. Sit near a door, know where your exits are, and keep in mind that you want to make sure you're conducting therapy while other staff members are there, especially if it's somebody that has a history of acting out, that you want to make sure that you're safe. Okay, for step 2 here, we're going to go into the ALCEA training. Okay, so the ALCEA is the database that we're going to be using for the next 3 years. ALCEA is where you're going to store and find all your paperwork. We actually make it easy for you. All you have to do is upload the documents onto the database, and then they're there forever. It's important that you keep track of these and have a space for them so that when it comes to internship or postdoc, you can easily access these documents so that you have them for the rest of your lives. It'll also be important to fill out these applications when you're applying for the internship sites that you have, because a lot of them need detailed information based on how many people you saw, what demographic of people you saw, and so on and so forth. So it's going to be not only what you use to search for sites, it's going to be what you keep your documentation on. Here's the steps to get started. You'll notice the website at the top, tcsppapp.com, is the login. It should bring you to this main page. The campus selected should be LA, and your username and your password are the same username and password that you use for your Chicago school. Sometimes the passwords can be difficult or give you trouble because they have different things going on. So if this is the case, you're going to want to contact IT and ask them to reset your wireless password. 9 times out of 10, this actually solved the problem, so this is usually the thing that takes place. If for whatever reason you still can't access it, let me know and we'll see what we can do. If you've been in a prior program, for instance the MFT program within the Chicago school, and you transferred into the applied clinical program, that usually is the case where there's the most confusion or the most worry within the site, but let us know if you're not able to access that as early as possible. Okay, so there's a couple things to keep in mind on your home page. You'll notice at the top there's 3 student tabs, one for home, one for student detail, and one for agency list. Also, all the way to the left is a My Forms page, and this is where you'll find your training agreements and your evaluations to which you will be turning in once you start Practicum. But the home page is where we're going to start. Next, we're going to click on the student detail page. You'll notice at the top, even above the 3 tabs, there's a drop-down box. Now, you should only have one drop-down box at this point, and it should say Applied Clinical Practicum 2017-2018. But there'll be more tabs going in there because remember, you're going to put your practicum information, your internship information, both in the same ALSEA account. So you want to make sure you're on the correct drop-down box to get started. And this is actually the first page with the detail page. So what you're going to actually do is fill in all this information. And you'll notice there's a little save button there. You want to make sure that you're clicking save so that all these things can be uploaded and saved appropriately. Next, you want to scroll down, and this is actually where you upload your CV and cover letter. You'll notice where the orange arrows are pointing to, you'll see a view button, which comes up after you've actually submitted the document. So what you actually do is you click on the little icon with the piece of paper and the pencil over it, and it will take you through the steps to how to upload a document. It'll ask you to browse the files that you have, and then you can upload the document to it. Once you're able to do that, there'll be a little view button like you see next to Final CV Resume under the orange tab on the left, to which you'll be able to do those things. Now, the program documents are the next step down. This is actually going to be something to complete once you start Practicum, but just so you know, it's the same way to upload these documents that you're going to have. Click on the icon, and then once you do, it'll actually be up there for your view. So at this point, you should have your CV, your cover letter, your strengths and weaknesses form uploaded by the time that spring semester starts. That's the first step with that. And then the agency preferences. You'll see down there in the bottom right where the rank order of the Practicum site are, and that's what we're going to get to more on this next page here. This is the agency list on the third page, or I'm sorry, on the third tab. You'll notice that there's an alphabetical list here, and this is how you search for the sites that you have. You're going to click on the individual sites to see if they are actually something that fills your requirements, and it's going to give you this details about the site. You'll notice there's descriptions about the organization, about training opportunities, and what an ideal student looks like. So you're going to want to reference that as quickly as possible and make sure that you're looking at those in pretty good detail so that you know what sites are best for you. Once you add these sites, and we'll go over this more in detail as well, but you're going to add them where the agency preference is. There's going to be a tab there to show you how to actually do that, and then you put the agency preferences in there by adding these adding the site preference list here at the bottom of the page. So I scrolled down on the agency detail page underneath the applications to the add site preference list. So if you clicked on this, this will automatically put whatever site you're looking at into your preference list, and then it will come on the agency preference list here. Once you're able to get in here and put all the agencies that you're going to want to visit, this is when you rank order those. And if you'll notice, next to the orange tab on the right, there's an up, down, and delete button. So if you click on those, it gives you the opportunity to put your first choice, second choice, third choice. Remember, you're putting 7 to 10 agencies in there, and then you're ranking them on 1 being your first choice to 10 being your 10th choice. Below that is actually where you're under the field assignments. You're actually going to put your supervisor, and I can show you quickly on what that will look like. When you enter your supervisor, and this is actually something you're going to do after you secure a site, but since most students forget this step, I'm going to just kind of teach you about it now. You go to the field assignment session, click on the change button, which is on the far right, and then you're going to find your supervisor from a drop-down box. You basically click it, put your supervisor in there, and then hit save. That should satisfy that. Lastly, I want to talk about what your approvals will look like, and this is what we're talking about when you approve to 1 to 3 sites. You'll notice that the status button has a series of sites to which are approved or declined. You'll notice that the 3 sites that this individual were approved to were Silmar, Weingart, and NK Health and Research. So you'll notice that those 3 are going to be ones that you're allowed to approve, or sorry, to apply to, and then the ones that are declined are ones that are not. You notice this person got their first and second choice, and then they got their 7th choice. Okay, so this is the practicum checklist that you can use for future reference. If you want to make sure that all of these things on this list have been satisfied, once this list has been satisfied, you will wait for the next step, which will be happening in spring semester, which I will tell you which sites you're going to apply to. I also, you'll notice in the parentheses, I put what slides to reference if you do have a question about these things. So this is important to reference while you're adding all these agencies and details to what your sites are going to have. So take a look, check off these marks as you complete them, and you'll be sure to be satisfied for this next requirement. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to contact me or my student worker, Celine. We'll be happy to take you through any process that you might have or answer any questions that you might come up with. But again, the time is of the essence for you. You want to make sure that you're getting these things taken care of, and it gets competitive. So you want to make sure that you are getting the site that you want. You may be going against one of your colleagues in your class. So, you know, when it becomes down to you and them, you want to make sure that you're the most successful candidate for the position. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to follow up with me, and we'll be sending you the next bit of information in the future. Have a good day.